What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we've got the highly anticipated part 2 of my recent video ranking the ugliest fighters in the UFC on a tier list, and we're back at it again with another tier list with the same amount of people as I had in the first time. We're going to put 5 athletes in each tier and then 1 athlete in the top tier, which is King of the Gremlins, for the ugliest fighter on this list. But we've also got the funny looking category, clapped, distant inbred, severely inbred, and then jump scare as well below it. So we're going to rank everyone accordingly, and you guys can let me know in the comments if you disagree or which fighters I missed out on. But we're going to start off with the first athlete, and I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje. I'll put him in distant inbred. Gaethje, he's not an ugly looking guy by any means, but he does have his inbred characteristics. He does, look just a little bit odd. He's a bit on the spectrum, as is all good people, let's be honest. Like, if you're not on the spectrum, what are you really doing? But Justin Gaethje, he looks a bit odd, as you can see in this image. That is only the characteristics or the only facial expression of someone who has their second cousins are probably bred to create him. So that's the deal with Gaethje. I'm gonna put him in distant inbred. I'm not thinking no brother sister kind of stuff, more like second or third cousins, more likely, maybe like a fourth cousin in there, but something along those lines. But we move on to another fighter, and I'm gonna go with Giga Chikadze. I'm thinking of putting him in severely inbred, but I'm just going to go with distant because, look, this photo doesn't do him justice, This photo makes him look a lot more inbred than he really is. If you just look at a normal photo of Giga Chikadze, it doesn't look too inbred, but this photo really, you can tell, like, for those that are not inbred, you just won't get photos like this. You will not get an image of someone that makes them look like a sped. Like, Giga Chikadze, this image, you can just tell he's from Georgia, well known, in the cliffs for their odd behaviors, their family relations. So I'd hazard a guess to say that Giga Chikadze is distantly inbred. But yeah, we're gonna move on though to another fighter, and we're gonna go with Herbert Burns. He's going in the jump scare category. Just look at the man. You see this and you're like, fuck, what the hell? Like, what? Jesus Christ, what's wrong with this guy's face? Herbert Burns, is a bit of an interesting looking fella. No longer with the UFC, so I'm kind of cheating here, but he was once a UFC fighter, and someone in the comments of my last video told me that I didn't include him and that I should have, so here he is in this one. I didn't remember how clapped this guy was, but I looked up a photo of him, and Jesus Christ, he did not get the good looks, the good end of the look spectrum at all. Looking like an absolute abomination. So if you see this guy around the corner when you're walking in a dark alleyway, you're fucking dropping your purse and you're running. Herbert Burns, terrible looking individual. We move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos. She's just going to go and clapped. Look, she's Brazilian and she's a female, so she's either going to be like a 9 or she's going to be a 2. And unfortunately, she's a 2. So Amanda Lemos, she's not terrible looking, but she's just like, she's got the classic Brazilian lesbian look. Just nothing going on there really. No eye appeal at all with Amanda Lemos. But I could hazard a guess and say that she's partially inbred, but I feel like all fighters are, If you're succeeding in the sport of martial arts, you've probably got some inbred genes in there somewhere. But Amanda Lemos, she's going to go and clapped. We move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Stipe Miocic. I'm thinking distant inbred for him. I'm going to put him at the top of distant inbred. So Stipe, you can just tell he makes up his own language. He can't speak the English language properly half the time, even though he's lived in America for like his whole life. He occasionally will look very inbred, like he looks just, you get that facial expression from him. He just looks like a real weird guy. But we like Stipe, man. And that's the thing with the distant inbreds, they're not that ugly. They just kind of look a bit clueless sometimes. They're like, that's the kind of vibes they're given. So Stipe is going to go in distant inbred though. But we move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Alex Perez. I'm putting him in funny looking. This guy, not terrible looking by any means. According to Manel Cap, he is, of course, a DNA abomination, but he just looks a bit odd. His facial expression just looking a bit weird. Maybe, I wouldn't say he's inbred. I think he just looks a bit like autistic, bit downs. It is what it is. But we move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Jamie Malarkey. He's going in severely inbred. This is another one that in the comments people told me that I missed out on, so I apologize, but here he is. Jamie Malarkey is going in severely inbred. This guy looks like he was fucking hit in the face with a brick as a kid. He looks like his dad had him doing road work at like 3 years old, and he slipped over and fell into like the semi-dried tar. Like that's what Jamie Malarkey's looking like. Weird guy. He's got that kind of blockhead, weird, bad fighting though. Like, he's not like he got the good end of the inbreeding like, the Dagestanis. They did, down in Australia, they clearly didn't do it right for Jamie Malarkey. So, he's copped the bad end of the looks. He also hasn't copped the good end of the fighting skill either. So, Jamie Malarkey's severely inbred. There's no doubt about it. We move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Curtis Blades. He's going in funny looking. Blades... I think it's just a bit of, I think he's just a bit autistic, a little bit downs at times, by the way he fights, I would definitely assume that Curtis Blades a bit downs. He just looks like a funny guy, just real ploddy, real, just clueless kind of face. Just look at the guy, He's not inbred, I wouldn't say, but he is just very, interesting looking. Just got a weird kind of face to look at. I'm not going to continue this segment because it's going to get me cancelled and people are going to call me racist if I continue. But we're going to move on to another fighter. Who are we going to go with? Josh Emmett. He's going in jump scare. This man, the orc, the gremlin. Very gremlin-like. As people pointed out in my last video, I missed out on Josh Emmett. I forgot to put him in. So I apologize, Josh. You just got a big KO. You deserve the recognition. So here you are. I'm putting you in the jump scare category. Obviously, this photo's after he got beat up, so he doesn't look like this at all times. But I wouldn't say it's unreasonable to think that Josh Emmett, does look like alien-like, I guess you could say. Subhuman. Just, he doesn't share the same characteristics as, normal Homo sapiens. I don't know. He's just interesting looking. He's got some part alien gene in him. What's going on with Josh Emmett? I'm not sure. But we're going to move on to another fighter. And I'm going to go with Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to go with funny looking. Look, would it surprise me if Paddy Pimblett was slightly inbred? No. But I think just for the purposes of this video, I'm going to put him in funny looking. Paddy Pimblett just looks like an interesting guy. He's white, but he's worn cornrows for his last fight, so that's just a bit weird. Got some, Ian Gary type of things going on, some cross-racial fantasies, I guess you could say. Ian Gary said he wants to be black, that's just interesting. But Paddy Pimblett clearly getting the same thoughts. Looks a bit weird. Even before he rocked the dreads or the cornrows, you could say, he just looked a bit odd, the haircut. Just, yeah, he looks a bit autistic. It is what it is. Looks a bit downs. Just, I guess that's what happens when you're from, country towns in England and stuff like that. You just end up looking a little bit disabled. It is what it is. But we move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Movsar Evloev. I'm going to put him in severely inbred. Not because he looks atrocious by any means. There's other guys that look worse than Movsar Evloev, but just look at the guy. He's inbred. He's from Dagestan, I assume. Evloev, I imagine he's from Dagestan. If not, my bad. But regardless, just look at the guy. He shares the same kind of characteristics as Tagir Ulanbekov, as Ankalaev, as Khabib in Islam, all those guys. He doesn't have the beard, though, so that's unfortunate for him. But the eyes kind of not always in a straight line. Some just kind of glaze off somewhere. He's just got that kind of look to him. I would hazard a guess and say we're looking at second cousins, probably, I would imagine. But Movsar Evloev, yeah, he's going in severely inbred. We move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Malk Costa. He's going in funny looking. I don't want to insult the guy too much, because some guy got mad at me in my last video and said I was making fun of Raul Rosas Jr. for having a birth defect. Of course I am. That's what makes it fun. Why would I not do that? But Malk Costa... he's not looking like no Raul Rosas Jr. He's just, 3/4 N-word pass level, half. I'm not going to say it, but yeah, he's got the half N-word pass. He's got that Mike Perry in him. Just debating whether he wants to be black or white. He's doing the Michael Jackson. And then he's rocking the fucking different coloured hair as well. So he's a pride ally and he's a transracial individual. So fair play to Malk Costa. He's repping all the communities. Big up. We move on to another fighter, and we go with Alex Morono. He's going to go in distant inbred. Again, just look at him. He looks partially inbred. He's just got that, like, usually with the white ones, the white people that are inbred, like, either you look completely cooked and you're a vegetable, or you just have that kind of, like, that Arnold Allen, that Bryce Mitchell look, and I get the same kind of vibe from Morona. A lot of the time it looks like he doesn't have emotions in his face, and then when he does, it's like, it's just weird, you know what I mean? Like, if you just look at this image of him, it's like he's just down, so I swear. Morona is like the most plain looking fella, and I wanted to find an image that made him look more clapped than he was, so I found this one, and he does look pretty inbred, I'll be real. But we move on to another fighter. Who should we go with here? I'm going to go with Rodolfo Bellato. Recent signed UFC athlete. He's going in jump scare, of course. Look at the man. His skull is misshapen. Like, was he jumped outside of a club and then hit with a bat? And his chin just didn't, like, go back into place? Like, is his chin just, like, formed sideways? Like, what's up with this guy's facial structure? He's looking really odd. Just look at him. He's got the blockhead, so he's got a great chin. Fair play to him, just like Vettori. But this guy looks super inbred, and he's also on top of that. Just something's happened to this guy, I swear. Being in Brazil, he was probably like driving like the fruit cart around in like Sao Paulo or something, and then he like fell off maybe. Like he definitely suffered some facial trauma as a child. Getting that Sean Strickland's dad whooping, that kind of vibe. But we're going to move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Carla Esparza. She's going in clapped as well. She could go in the thing is though, with Esparza, she's just ugly. So either she goes in clapped or she goes in jump scare. Because you really can't put her in either of the inbred tiers, because they're kind of like middle tiers for those that they're not even ranking on attractiveness or ugliness. They're just like, okay, the person looks inbred. Esparza doesn't look inbred, she's just ugly. Like, that's just how it is. I'm going to say it how it is. It would take me probably no less than, I think I'd say 9 beers to find her remotely attractive, and that's with a full face of makeup as well. So it's a rough one for Carla Esparza. Somehow she found a man that would take her. Fair play to her. We move on to another fighter, and I'm going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm going to put him in distant inbred, I'd say. Obviously, he doesn't look as inbred as a lot of the people that I've got in here, so I can't put him in severely just because he doesn't display the same kind of awful looks as them. He's just like, as the guy on Joe Rogan said, that Chinese-looking Russian. Like, that's basically him. I don't think it's even like a lot of inbreeding. Kazakhstan, not as much for the inbreeding, as the Dagestan region, as the kind of Georgians, the Giga Chikadzes of the world. So he does look a little bit iffy, but I guess I'm just going to put him in distant inbred. We're going to move on to another fighter, and we've got who are we going with? We've got Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm going to put him in severely inbred. Again, not because he's super ugly. Someone said in my last video that Islam Makhachev has like thirst comments on his page, and I was like, mate, it's just family support. Like, his family's just getting around him. So fair play. Similar thing with Umar. Like, not a terrible looking guy. He's not hideous. But yeah, he's just very clearly inbred. Same as all of them. Just severely. Like, second cousins. We all know. He probably lost his virginity to a goat. Or his sister. It's either or. It's basically the same thing there. So Umar's gone in severely inbred. We move on to another fighter. And we're going with Nursultan Ruzaboev. He's also going in severely inbred. I'm putting him at the top. Nursultan Ruzaboev, much like Maitabek Orolbai, missed a few updates. He's stuck in like 100 BC. Like, this guy is prehistoric, looking like an absolute odd human being. It's just interesting for Nursultan Ruzaboev. It's tough, but yeah, he do be looking pretty inbred, I would imagine. Where's he from? Tajikistan or something like that? Or Uzbekistan? Something like that. But yeah, one of those stans, yeah, probably cousins, yeah, whatever. We know the drill by now. I don't have to keep explaining it for everyone. But I'm going to move on to another fighter. We're going with Brian Battle. I'm putting him in clapped, because this guy, he's pretty clapped, let's be real. Again, don't think it's inbred, possibly could be, but he just looks more like, yeah, he's just a bit ugly. I don't think there's even like disabilities related to it. Don't think he's Downs or autistic or anything like that. He's just looking just ugly. He's just one of those guys that just came out wrong. Probably got stuck, like head got stuck coming out the vag, and he just like got a bit misshapen or something, because his facial structure's a bit weird, Yeah, it's just, I'm not going to go into detail. You can look for yourself and tell me. We're going to move on to another fighter, and we've got who are we going to go with? I'm going to go with Shamil Gaziev. I'm going to put him in clapped. Shamil Gaziev, pretty clapped individual. Fat man, looking like Khabib ate too much tiramisu. Like, he's literally the heavyweight Khabib by the looks of it. His face is kind of like mushed together, you know what I mean? Like, it's smushed down. So it's like Anthony Smith, I said, his eyes and nose and mouth are like too small for his skull. But this guy, it's like his face has been like shrunk down, so there's like no gap between his nose and his mouth and his eyes. Like, they're just all mushed together. But we're going to move on to another fighter. And we've got Lauren Murphy. She's gone to the top of Jump Scare. This one is one that, like, you could literally give me an entire fucking alcohol store level of shit. You could literally give me alcohol poisoning, and I still wouldn't find Lauren Murphy attractive, even with, like, an hour worth of makeup done. Like, she's just incapable of looking attractive in any way. She's a crackhead. She looks as such too. You just can't debate it in any way. Lauren Murphy really not looking like the most attractive woman, let's be real. Definitely was shooting heroin with Jared Gordon under Penn Station, so it's interesting for her. I'm putting her in Jump Scare though, because let's be honest, if she taps you on the shoulder at a nightclub, then you're leaving immediately out of fear. So I'm putting her in Jump Scare, and I'm going to move on to another fighter, and we're going to go with Nikita Krylov. I'm going to put him in severely inbred. Nikita Krylov, I do think is very inbred. I'll be honest. I think if you look at him, he does look like rather of an inbred individual. He makes, again, those facial expressions. You can kind of tell Ukrainian, Russian, definitely some inbreeding going on there for sure. Maybe like some arranged marriages through like the government or something like that. Along those lines, I'm not sure. Nikita Krylov, though, just tell me this guy doesn't look inbred. Definitely does. But we're going to move on to another fighter. And I'm going to go with Muhammad Yahya. I'm going to just put him in clapped, I guess. Not much to say about him. I don't know. I just was trying to find some people to put in here, because I wanted even numbers for each of the tiers. So I'm putting him in clapped. He's just not a good looking bloke. Just looks very dead inside. His sister probably left on holiday, and now he doesn't have a soulmate anymore. So it's tough for Muhammad Yahya. Get around to my boy. But yeah, we're going to move on to another fighter. We'll go with Kevin Borjas. Again, another one that people told me I missed out on in the last video. Kevin Borjas, I agree. Definitely a clapped individual. But no, more like funny looking. I could put him in clapped either or. The clapped and funny looking tiers are kind of interchangeable, let's be real. But Kevin Borjas, he's just looking a bit odd. This photo doesn't really show the right angles, but yeah, there's definitely some interesting characteristics to his facial structure. But yeah, we're going to move on to another fighter. And we're rocking with Sean Woodson. He's going in Jump Scare. Not because he looks absolutely horrifying and inbred, but more because, again, you look at this guy and you think aliens have invaded. Like, you think we've been taken over by extraterrestrials. Like, Sean Woodson is just not looking like a human. His arms are like, take up his whole fucking body. Like, I swear his arms are down to his knees. His facial structure, hairline's atrocious. Got that alien head. Like, he's just so odd. Even like his lips, his mouth, his eyes, just everything about him is looking extremely just out of this world, let's be honest, and not in a good way. But I'm putting him in Jump Scare. We move on, though, to the last fighter, and we're rocking with the king of the gremlins. If you didn't know already, I kind of stumbled over it before I almost put him in, but I remembered I had to save him for the end. It is, of course, Rinat Fakhretdinov, the absolute abomination of a man. Look at the guy. His eyes, his ears, his beard, his nose, everything about him is just hideous. Much like Sharamagomedov, unless this guy didn't get blinded halfway through his life. So he's fully working, I guess you could say, maybe he's not, but he seems to be fully capable in sight, sound and touch and all that, but he's just looking like an absolute freak. Rinat Fakhretdinov, you just look at the man's face, like, he's like, nah, nah. Like, he's fucking second cousins, first cousins, brother, sister, more likely. Rinat Fakhretdinov is just not looking good at all. And his striking is terrible to look at. Striking is almost as bad to look at as his face. He's got some decent grappling, but like, basically, his notable wins is just sleeping Kevin Lee, who sucks, and then ragdolling Brian Battle, who's also clapped. So yeah, Rinat, king of the gremlins, but ladies and gentlemen, that is the video done. I hope you enjoyed part 2 of this highly anticipated series. I was going to save it for another day, but I wanted to get it out because there seemed to be a lot of requests. But I'm coming in with more videos soon. I might do a female fighters attractiveness tier list if you want to see that and get myself cancelled. So see you guys in the next one. Peace out.